We often learn some of the greatest lessons in life when we go through the deepest and darkest of times. We face this paradox where we're given a new set of lenses. We see things differently. We gain a different appreciation of the now. We learn to live in the moment. And when we're handed that understanding of the fragility of life, everything around us changes. And we're gifted with a clarity. It's how we perceive that clarity. I started in the financial services business in the late 90s. I was very privileged to have a father who was a financial advisor and a mother who was a teacher. Two completely different occupations. But they both planted information in me that would later make sense. They didn't when I was young, but they resonated as I got older. And I wanted to be in the financial services industry as well too, because a lot of what I was taught was about the basics of planning. What's fascinating about that is you don't learn any of that in the school systems. We don't get any education on how to pick employee benefits, on what a 401k is, what the basics of planning in advance of the bad are. And we have this misnomer that financial planning is about money. It's not. The majority of it's about legal documentation to be put in place to preserve for your family during difficult times. So I took this information that I grew up with, that I learned, and I became what's called a wholesaler. A wholesaler is you become all the licenses of a financial advisor, all the things you need to do, but you work for a company that manufactures mutual funds, 401ks, life insurance. And you go sit with financial advisors and you try to show them why they should use your products in implementing them into their clients' portfolios. It became a passion of mine. I was able to use these gifts I got as a financial advisor, learning about that, and transpose that into helping other people. And we always had the same comments when we sat down with our advisor clients. Our job is to be there when things are bad. Our job is to give people good news at these deepest and darkest of times. Our job is to have a plan in place prior to the negative so we could take on the fight at hand without regret and resentment. And come the year 2001, I became the top guy at my company. By 2002, I became one of the top in the entire financial services industry. Business was great. Everything I was talking about was what I believed in. It was real, it was pure, and it was honest. In 2004, I met the girl of my dreams. Within 5 minutes of meeting Rebecca, I knew we were going to be together forever. Our souls connected. There was something about it that just you couldn't express in words. We got married in 2006 in Philadelphia. About 9 months after the day of our wedding, we were expecting a child. I'll let you guys all do the math on that one right there. And as we were getting ready, we were going to move out of the city. We were going to move to the suburbs like most families do. And I remember sitting down with my father. And he said to me, he goes, what do you say to your clients every day? Our job is to be there when things are bad. Our job is to give families good news when they need it the most. Our job is to have a plan in place prior to the negative. My father said to me, he goes, do you do all that? I go, absolutely. He goes, you're taking on more responsibility now. You're about to be a dad. Are you transposing that into the planning process? I said, well, are you doing it? And that was the day I decided it was time to get a will done. A power of attorney, basic college planning, insurance, things that are not about the wealth that you have, but things that put a plan in place that I could focus on certain things when things don't go the right way. So I did everything that I talked about. 2007, that September, my first son, Luke, is born. 2009, February, my second son, Jake, is born. In 2010, my wife was pregnant with our third child. And one day we're sitting there for Memorial Day weekend, all of us enjoying life, enjoying our family, appreciating that time together. And my father-in-law, Larry, was 60 years old, and we got a call that day that he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. My first experience with cancer, ladies and gentlemen, happened when I was 15 years old. My grandma Harriet was diagnosed with cancer. I wasn't old enough to understand it. I wasn't old enough to digest it. I wish I would have had a better understanding, but I was too young. One day she was Grandma Harriet, the next day she was wearing a cancer turban, and the next day she was gone. What I do remember is the pain and anguish of what it did to my family. My mother and my grandmother spoke every day on the phone. Every weekend, we were at their house in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. They were at our house in Parsippany, New Jersey. I watched the pain. I watched the tears. All I did is it built up this hatred for cancer of me, of why are you doing this to our family? Cancer didn't care about us. Didn't care what we're doing. It does what it wants, when it wants, on its own plan. My wife was the exact same way with her father. They were two peas in a pod. She's pregnant with our third child. She's got 2 kids under 3 years old. She's got a husband. And she would take him 45 minutes down to the University of Pennsylvania to get his Whipple procedure. And after that, every day, She would drive him down back and forth to get his chemo, his radiation. He had stage 4 pancreatic cancer with an average shelf life of about 6 months. What I saw was inspirational. It was an honor to be a part of it. There was no bitching, there was no complaining. It was family being there for family. And that's what we do. My father-in-law, Larry, sat down with me. And he said he had 2 goals. Those 2 goals were, number 1, is he wanted to see all his grandchildren born. And number 2, is he wanted all of them to be old enough to have real memories of him. You know what I saw? I saw a warrior. He did everything he needed to do to put that fight out to live up to those 2 things. 2011, he's still going. Cancer would go up, it would go down, it would go all over. He'd have to go back for chemo, go back for other stuff, but he was just putting on a fight. 2010 to go back, my daughter was born in October. 2011, he's fighting. 2012. 2013, he's still going. We're 2.5 years into it. And I'm driving on an icy, snowy, miserable day in a town called Bridgewater, New Jersey. There's fender benders all over the side of the road. I got my suit and tie on. I'm just going, you know what, I'm just going easy. I don't feel like dealing with this. I get up to a traffic light. My car hydroplanes right into the car in front of it. Airbags go off. My car flips over, goes into the median. I'm holding on to that steering wheel, thinking all that working out I'm doing, that's for this moment right now. Car stops. I get out of the car without a scratch on my body. Police come over, they're like, dude, you got to get to a hospital right this second. I'm like, no, man, beast mode, I'm good, I'm cool. I call my wife. I go, honey, the car's totaled, but I'm okay. She's with her father getting chemotherapy down at the University of Pennsylvania. She goes, you got to get to a hospital. I'm like, no, I'm okay. She goes, don't forget about our friend Karen. We have a friend named Karen Mancini one day driving in Bluebell, Pennsylvania. She pulls up to a traffic light. Car comes flying through the light and T-bones her. Police say to her, you know what, you should go to the hospital. Just make sure you're going to be okay. She goes to the hospital, and 3 hours later, the doctors come in and say, we want you to send a thank you note and flowers to the person that hit you. We found a brain aneurysm. You would have been dead in about 3-4 hours from now. I thought about my kids. I thought about my wife. And like a type A personality, I went on my way. I came home that night. Larry, my father-in-law, sitting there going through chemotherapy, sitting on our couch, falling asleep. My wife's in the kitchen. And I'm just sitting there going, oh, my God, my head is freaking killing me. My God. Still won't stop. My wife suffers from something called chronic migraines. She looks at me and she goes, did you go to the hospital? I go, no. She goes, I don't want to hear about it. Try having chronic migraines. Over the next 2 weeks, the pain got more and more severe every single day. And I'm thinking, did I hit my head during that accident? Is there something I'm not remembering here? About 2 weeks plus, I started to lose all ability to sleep. Larry would come home from chemotherapy. I'd sit on the couch with him from 8:30 to 10. I would fall asleep. I'd wake up in massive pain at 10 o'clock and couldn't go back to bed. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on. But we have 3 young kids under 5 years old. We got my father-in-law dying of pancreatic cancer. Nobody needs to hear this about me. Another 2 weeks go by. It's getting worse and worse. And I speak all over the place. I share my stories, my perspective, the reasons of why planning is so important for my career. And one day I'm giving a speech in a town called Bridgewater, New Jersey. And I go to make a point, and I feel a hot flash hit me in the face. And as that hot flash hit me, I went to make the next perspective I was going to, and slur and gurgle poured out of my mouth. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what was going on, but I saw myself standing outside my body going, you are having a stroke. You are having a stroke. I got myself together. I said, all right, let's bounce back into this. Didn't sleep so well last night. I was scared out of my mind. Over the next month, I had 9 more of these strokes. I had one when I was training for a race called the Broad Street Run. I had one when I was out to dinner with my wife. I had one when I was driving. They kept coming, and I was getting more and more scared. May 14, 2013, I'm giving a speech in my hometown of Parsippany, New Jersey, in front of about 300 people. And as I go to make a point, I feel a hot flash hit me in the face. I know what that means. I turn my back on everybody to point so I can kill this 5 to 6 second period where I just slur and gurgle and I have no idea what's going on. And that was the moment I decided I'm going to the hospital right now. I call my wife up. She's in a place called King of Prussia, some of you might have heard of. She's taking a break from Larry going through his chemo. His roller coaster started heading back down. I call her up. I say, this is something, I got to go to the hospital. We decided to meet at a place called Capitol Health in Hopewell, New Jersey. I have a 90-minute ride there. She's got about a 30-minute ride. As I'm driving, going through my head, all right, this is cool. They'll give me some medicine. They'll figure this out. Maybe I'm going to die. My head is all over the place. I meet her there. We park in the parking lot. We hold hands. We walk in. They go, first thing, Mr. Newman, is we're going to give you a CAT scan. like, yeah, CAT scan's cool, no problem. It's like an x-ray. They give me a CAT scan. And 3 hours later, they come in, they go, Mr. Newman, we know the issue. I'm like, yeah, what's the deal? Let's diagnose it, let's fix it. You have a lesion right here. And I'm thinking, a lesion's a cut or a bruise. I'd probably bang my head. Oh, that lesion is causing massive pain. I'm like, you ain't kidding. That lesion is causing your lack of sleep. And Mr. Newman, you're not having strokes. You're having seizures on the left frontal lobe of your brain. As difficult as this sounds to digest, I was okay with it. I'm like, that's it, let's fix it. So I had to go for MRI after MRI. I'm in the tube for hours and hours and hours. At 3 o'clock in the morning, they said to me, you need one more MRI and MRA. We got to do it with contrast. My wife, Rebecca, says to me, I'm going to go home. I'm going to make lunch for our 3 kids. I'm going to get my dad a ride down for chemotherapy, and I'll be back in like 2 hours. I said, yeah, I'm going back in the tube for another hour. Don't worry about it. So they come to get me to go into the tube, and they go, you got to get in this wheelchair. We got to bring you down. So I get in the wheelchair, and the nurse comes up behind me and goes, all right, Mr. Newman, MRI, MRA with contrast this time. We need to see how big your brain tumor is. I go, it's a lesion. And that's the moment at 39 I was diagnosed with brain cancer. My head starts spinning all over the place. I'm in the tube for an hour and a half. They bring me back to this hospital room. They plug me into 30 different machines. I'm just laying there. And I have no problem saying this. I just started to cry. And I started to have retrospective on my life. I said, I got 3 kids under 5. I got a father-in-law dying of cancer. I got a wife. This must be something I did. I'm a good dad. I'm a good husband. And ladies and gentlemen, strength is not how big your arms are. Strength is not how much you bench press. Strength is something that's located deep down in our bellies that at the deepest and darkest of times we can find it, we can grab it, and we can own it. I saw it, I pulled it, I didn't know I had it in me, and I just started cursing my brains out. And the nurses come running in, they go, oh my God, Mr. Newman, are you okay? I went, I'm fine. That was my pity party. If I'm going down swinging. And about 2 hours later, surgeon walks in with my wife, Rebecca, wiping her eyes. Her dad's dying of pancreatic cancer. Her husband has brain cancer, which to most people that means you're going to die. And the doctor looks at me, and he tells me they're going to give me that Friday, it's Wednesday, a full-blown craniotomy. They are going to cut an enormous C in my skull. They're going to pull it out. They're going to pull the jaw back. They're going to pull the tumor out, and I won't know for 10 days the severity of it. I go through that surgery on Friday. I go home on Sunday. I got scarring all over me, cuts everywhere. They wheel me outside, and as they're wheeling me outside, my wife comes up in the same car we pulled up 6 days earlier. I get into the car. We drive to my house, and we hear home is where the heart is. We pull in the driveway, and I'm going to go through that side entrance. And my kids are holding signs in there. It says, thank you for coming home, Dad. I love you. And I started to cry, but I cried out of happiness. I was given a gift from cancer that I was starting to digest. It wasn't about yesterday. It wasn't about tomorrow. It's about now. It's about living in that moment. It's having a better understanding of appreciation of this time with my children and the memories I'm creating. I'm looking at my father-in-law going, this is amazing. I got a new set of lenses on right now. I go up and I fall asleep for 13 hours. I'm not going to know the severity of my cancer for 10 days. Day 5, my son is having his 5-year-old picnic at his Montessori school. My wife says to me, you don't have to go to this. You look beat up. I go, there's no way I'll miss this. That morning, we take my 3 kids over to the Montessori school. I'm riding shotgun because I'm not allowed to drive. I have to put a hat on so no one can see the scars. I take my little 2-year-old daughter, and I walk her to her class, and she takes her little pink jacket, and she puts it on the little hook. And she goes, thank you for walking me to class, Daddy. I love you. And I'm thinking, why don't I do this more? It's not about my job. It's not about my career. It's not about what's on my phone. It's about the memory I just created for Lola. This is real. This is pure. We're doing something that changes lives. We're allowing them to know what's really important. And I am euphoric. I'm going through this amazing experience. My wife says to me that afternoon, you don't have to go to the lunch. You look a mess. I go, I wouldn't miss it for the world. She brings me over there. I walk out. My 5-year-old son, Luke, comes running out, gives me a hug. He goes, thanks for coming, Dad. And I am beaming, smiling. I didn't know if I'd be here. This is our time, right now. We go outside in the back. And every dad's going to sit with his son for 30 minutes with their little brown bag lunch and show them love and appreciation. And I'm holding Luke's hand, and we walk into the backyard, and I'm going to tell you what I saw. This was every dad in the backyard next to their son. And I went, oh, my God, that was me. I used to have a phone, iPhone, and a BlackBerry. It wasn't about that. I had no anger. I had no animosity. This was about Luke. It was an experience for him. It was showing them love, showing them appreciation, showing them how to act. That day, my phone was in my wife's car. This is a paradox. I was learning something from a horrible experience that I would take with me, and I would never give these gifts back. I go back that night, and I'm telling my cancer partner, Larry, because that's what he is. He's the one who showed me independence. He's the one who showed me dignity. He's the one who showed me how to fight like a warrior. This all happened for a reason. The paradox was getting bigger. And I'm telling him how amazing this is, and I'm getting these lessons, as banged up as I am. And within an hour, he got a call saying to get off the chemotherapy because it wasn't going to do him any good because he was going to pass away. Cancer didn't care about our euphoria. It didn't care about what we were going through. It did what it wanted and when it wanted. I had to go on chemo and radiation, and I was put in my place very quickly. About a year later, Larry passed away. And we went up to see him. And he weighed about 70 pounds. He was emaciated. And all he could do was flutter his eyelids. And I sat in a room with him and I said, Larry, I got this. You may leave us spiritually. You'll never leave it, or physically. You'll never leave us spiritually. I got this. I will take care of this family because you showed me how to do it. And within 2 hours later, he died. I know he was waiting to say goodbye to his cancer partner to hand everything off. So every 3 months, I would go get MRIs, MRAs, all this other stuff. For all the positive, for all the optimism I had, you're pushing stuff deep down into your belly, this negative stuff, this anger, this fear. Because every 3 months they'd go, Mr. Newman, your cancer is probably going to grow back. You have a grade 3 astrocytoma, an aggressive cancer. So what I would do is I started to write. And I would send emails out to friends and family and just get it off my chest. It was like vomit. I would get it out of me. I found an outlet. I found a catharsis that we all need to have. I never wrote in my life. And 4 years into it, we had 20,000 people following our emails. Every day I would get, could you put this person on, this person on? I never thought about it. Ladies and gentlemen, cancer is like buying a car. Do you ever notice you buy a car, you leave the lot, and you see the car everywhere? The car was always there. You just never had a direct connection with it. I started to have a better understanding that we are all a family of warriors, and people are sick of the shtick. They want honesty and integrity. They want to hear stories of inspiration from real people. They don't want to hear this stuff any longer, this made-up statistical type of jargon. So I kept writing and writing to make myself feel better, to do what I needed. I figured maybe I'll write a book. I wrote a book for me. It made me feel better. It gave me that outlet of, I got to deal with all this anxiety that comes in. I want to be a role model for my children. This book came out on March 28th, 2018. I called my mother up in Parsippany, New Jersey. I said, hey, Mom, the book's coming out on Amazon tonight. And my mom said to me over the phone that night, you know no one's going to buy it, right? I go, oh, God, no. Who cares about me? What do they care? She goes, but you're going to put 3 copies in your safe. So when your kids are old enough, they'll be able to read the real story of what actually happened. I said, I couldn't agree with you more. And 1 week later, we were #1 on Amazon in a multitude of different categories. You started to have a better understanding of what people want. They want stories of honesty. The paradox is I never wrote this for anyone but myself. I did it for me. I found that outlet to allow me to fight and continue to fight as I keep getting all these tests. But what I found out is what truly inspires people is real, deep connection. Who can you connect with today? And who can you inspire? Thank you very much.